Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to episode 7 of FPL. Don't panic. Time to panic. Nah, not really. Game week 4. That didn't go according to plan. It wasn't just me. I think it was a bit of a disaster class by most FPL managers out there. It really was a week where anything that could go wrong did go wrong. And I seemed to have caught the literally the everything. I think it was on a Sunday morning. I was actually incredibly sitting on a green arrow, and thought, okay, might get away with this. I didn't. In fact, it got worse. The gods of FPL came to haunt me, as a couple of the players that I took out in my wild card. In my plan, which seemed to make sense at the time, they hauled basically Gabriel, of course, came with a goal, and Raya with I think it was a 9-pointer. So we'll review it. We'll lick our wounds and learn our lessons, he said, hopefully. Let's run through the team anyways for what it's worth. I wildcarded. It seemed like a really good, sensible decision, given the fixtures that I was targeting and my plan for the next few game weeks. However, starting with Henderson, big mistake. Well, I mean, good fixtures for a few fixtures, but the Palace defense is just a shocker. So we're going to have a really, really close look at that soon to correct that mistake, I think, unless something good happens in the next couple of game weeks. But I'm not holding out too much hopes the way they're going. The one redemption I had in my defense was Dunk came in with a 6-pointer. Lewis, this is one of the ones here, the gods of FPL. Everything I said about what would happen with Lewis didn't happen. I figured he'd either start and play close to a full 90, and if he didn't start, then I'd have someone coming off the bench, because I didn't think it'd be likely that Lewis would come on if Walker started or whoever. And of course, he got taken off at half time. Just the 1 point there. My most consistent defensive player, Alex Trent, just came in with a 1-pointer, and still looking for an attacking return from him. I'm going to keep the faith with Trent. I know it's going to come. He's going to start hauling, and we're going to get 2 or 3 in a row. So I think, tricky has to be looked at. There's a lot of money tied up there. We'll see how the next couple of game weeks. He certainly won't be going in the next couple of game weeks. There's a lot of money tied up there moving forward. I will need money in the plan later as we go through it. But again, just the 1-pointer. Rodgers, that was a mistake bringing him in. He was an enabler, 5 million. It passes the eye test, but he just can't buy an assist or a goal for love or money. Wonderful on the eye, terrible on the results. And you would have thought with Watkins actually hitting a little bit of form and grabbing a couple of goals that he might have provided an assist for one of them. Nope, nothing. Semenyo, just came in with a 1. Semenyo was more strategic buy towards in a couple of weeks' time the games I want him for and saving transfers. I wasn't really sure if I was going to start with a number of players. We'll get to those later, but Semenyo ended up coming in as this is again just anything that could go wrong for me did. Given a penalty away, thought he was on penalties, and Mateta takes the ball off him. Got to toughen him. Those penalties were yours. Now you're unlikely to get them back, which devalues you a bit as well. So we have to start having a look at that as well potentially. Salah, 2 points. Terrible game from Salah, to be honest with you. Still keeping the faith with him, obviously, although he may need to go in a couple of game weeks, as I need to free up cash towards a stronger unit going forward. So obviously the next couple of game weeks are critical. He's been going great, but Liverpool do have a fixture turn, and need to be starting to think about freeing up 4 or 5 million for what I'll need to bring in Arsenal assets when their fixtures turn in a couple of game weeks as well. And we definitely need to get them back in. Jota, he's turning into a rotation risk, just the 1 point. Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think anyone would have really predicted Forest to have won 1-0 at Liverpool. But this is football; these things happen. And with three Liverpool assets in there, yeah, think we may bring that down to 2, or we may look to double up on the Liverpool defence, which I still have a lot of faith in. That was a hell of a strike from the Forest player. I can't remember who scored it, but it was a fabulous goal. One of those. Another day, as I say, Trent would be walking away with his 7 or 8 points or whatever. Not to be. Havertz, just the 2 points. Yeah, good Arsenal win at 1-0, but did expect Arsenal to concede, plus the taking out of the defenders. Again, huge upset. Always back the Arsenal defence. Unfortunately, Havertz didn't get anything, and the only saviour, but of course he's so highly owned, didn't really do a lot for me. Was Haaland coming in, and with the captain's armband, that got me 26. So that gave me a total of 45. And of course, I had João Pedro was the one that I was starting, and I had actually sort of tried to de-risk him, which is with that's what I think it was Havertz actually came off the bench for me with the 2 pointers. I thought I'd been very clever there, having João Pedro as the starter and Havertz on the bench as first sub. So the first bit worked all right with João Pedro, as I thought a risk at not starting. Now, apparently it was because of a bit of a niggle, and it wasn't about the international travel. I suspect it may have been a bit of both. And the Brighton defence was clearly blunted as well by not having João Pedro out there, because, of course, on the bench actors, the third sub who came in with the 6-pointer. I think apparently Danny's been a bit of a FPL. I thought, okay, I won't keep on the position at all. Just panned out. So the FPL game week was 51 points. I had a safety score of 45 points to stay on my 70 points average, and I achieved exactly 45 points. Gives me a rolling total of 280. A total of 280, and my rolling average is now exactly 70, which is not good. So that puts me on exactly where I want to be, but I was really hoping to build up that buffer, which will explain why very shortly when we start to go through the game week 5 team. So yeah, I'm on exactly 70 points, which is my target, to average 70 points. That gives me my next game week to stay on my average. I've got to hit 70. I'm not overly hopeful of that. But I guess I did achieve my safety score, so let's take the positives out of it into the not so good bits. Game week position, like I said, I was on a green arrow on Sunday morning. 2 fixtures later, I am on a game week position of 6,968,000, and I dropped over 500,000 places to 1,000,004. Taking the only plus out of that I can really is that I am still only outside the top 100k by 22 points, which at this stage of the season, it's nothing really. There's we're just a few games into the season really. My other prediction, obviously, which is still coming true so far, is and I do monitor this because we should, as I say, repeating myself here on a week-on-week basis, but we should see this creep down towards the 70-75 point mark, and it should hopefully be at about 70-75 by about game week 15. We'll see if that prediction comes true. But the FPL leaders game week average, now the leader changes on a week-by-week basis, so that's what we're keeping track of. What is the leader getting? Has actually dropped from 103 to 95, so we're seeing that drop down on a week-by-week basis now. We've got a 123, 117, 103, 95, and looking at some of the leaders at the top there, they've all played their triple captains. They're doing all sorts of strange things, taking hits, all sorts of things, and it's gonna come down. We've got these people that are just really trying to have that glory deb in number one or in that top 10k for a while, which I would have dearly loved myself, but yeah, not to be at the moment. Anyway, that's where we sit at the moment. Let's have a look at the game week till game week 5. But I have predicted. What did I actually prediction? I said 75 points, and I ended up with 45. So I was way off. My other ones have been so accurate. I've been within like a few points in my predictions so far. That one was way out, but to be fair, there's a lot better players than me doing a lot worse at the moment. That was a terrible game week for so many players out there. Mine was particularly bad, but because I was in a reasonably strong position, I'm still sort of in that 1 million mark, and still only 12 points so outside that top 100k. So it's bad, but I'm actually technically, I suppose, I'm actually where I wanted to be, or where I hope to be. But as I said, I've been trying to build up that buffer because I knew game week 5. I don't believe game week 5 is going to be that fantastic for me, because what I've been doing is building towards having the buffer, having a little bit of a downward one this week coming, and then which would keep me above the 70. And then game week 6, I'm going to have a very strong team going into game week 6, and I'll also have, if I roll, which I think I still do, plan to do at the moment, I'd have a very, very strong team in game week 6. Anyway, let's have a look at the game week team this week. Maybe tweaks, just depending on who I take, leave on or off the bench. We'll just talk a little bit about how these players have now fallen off the averages. And this is the thing that concerns me, and it could all turn around in this game week. As I say, it's averages are averages. So yeah, they dropped their averages this week. Hopefully, with a bit of luck, they'll come back this week. But we'll go with Henderson in goal again. Yeah, he's been looking awful. Let's be frank about it. Let's just bring this up here so we can actually talk about who they're facing. So Palace have got Man United at home. Don't know, Man United looking a bit better now, and I'm very pleased about that, because I do support them, and I think there's a few players now that are actually starting to interest me at United, that are actually starting to hit some reasonable averages. Strangely enough, the defence have kept two out of 4 clean sheets, and a couple of them are actually looking pretty good. Mazraoui's gone really, really well. De Ligt obviously did fantastically well last week. Need to see a couple more games from him and see if he's got that consistency. Garnacho, his averages are good, and he's coming off the bench and achieving his averages. Yes, it's an interesting one, United. I mean, it's very hard to trust them given that they look terrible at times, but the numbers are the numbers. So, and they're going to have a nice fixture turn soon. Let's going off track a little bit there. Back to Henderson. Don't have too much faith in the clean sheet this week. I think he's going to have to be a mistake that is corrected. It was a big toss-up when I wildcarded between him and Sells. I really wish I'd gone Sells. Forest defence is looking good, and there are some assets there that I think are going to be really, really worth looking at. And one that is tempting me, I want to beat the price rise, but it will mess up some of my other plans. But Anya, I think it's Anya, I don't know how you pronounce it. Anya in the Forest defence, 4.4, really good numbers. Forest defence is looking good. A bit of a mixed bag of fixtures, but just on the bench, bring him in for the right fixtures. 4.4, because it's just saving 0.1. Yeah, really, really will help going forward. Money is tight, and we have to look at that. Anyway, Henderson, I don't really predict too much from him, so I really couldn't predict much more than the 2 points out of him. Trent, Bournemouth at home. Yeah, I need a big one from Trent this week. His because he only got the one last week, he's dropped to a 5 of his game week average at the moment for the first 4 games, so he's down to a 5 now. So need the points from him. An assist, a goal, that would be a joy. Dunk, the one saving grace, I'll keep him in. He's got a pretty good fixture against Forest, and yeah, we'll see. It's one of those. I mean, that could go either way, but I think he's probably a decent home fixture. Hopefully, he can scrape a clean sheet for me. And the other one is Konza. I'm really questioning my sanity in bringing him in, but he's just averaging 2 points per game week. So really, that's going to be a struggle to get what I want out of the defense. What does that add up to? 5, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. On their averages, they'd only get about 13 out of that defense this week. But I'm hopeful for Liverpool, and if we can get something out of for a Trent at Liverpool, if we can get something out of Konza or Dunk or a miracle from Henderson, penalty save. Not that I'd actually be happy. That would mix my emotions, but we'll see where that goes. Midfield, we're going to go with Salah, of course. My big question here will be the captain's armband. We'll talk about that towards the end. His average dropped to 11, but with Bournemouth at home, you've got to be hopeful that he's going to come back into a bit of form, and I think Liverpool will be looking for a little bit of a bounce back as well after their very below par performance last week. His averages have dropped to 4. And he really has only had the one return in 4 match weeks. So, again, got to really question his position there as we move forward. But he's the sort of player, if he starts going, we're talking 16, 17 pointers, but he needs to come in soon. We need to get that average up. It's 4. I need to be looking at, an average of 6 points per week from my midfielders. And he is simply not achieving that. Jota's averages have also fallen down in the last 2 game weeks. He is under threat as a potential way to release some money into the rest of the team. His averages is down to 4 points, and Rodgers is just doing these 2 pointers. So he is a make weight too. So I've got money in other places, but there are other good make weights out there that are starting to come through that are looking much better than him. Is it McNeil? I think at Everton, terrible team, but he keeps just getting these little returns. It's nothing spectacular, but he just keeps ticking along. There are better enablers out there, maybe a little bit more expensive, but not that much more expensive. There's a few 5.4, 5.5s out there that are grabbing 4, 5 points per week. As a sort of an average, makes them much more effective enabler. We'll have João Pedro up front with Haaland. João Pedro, hopefully he is back. He's got a good fixture, but goodish. We're saying that's Nottingham Forest defence. So we'll see. We'll see. But his form's been good. He had been averaging 6 points before last week. So if I could get a 6-pointer out of him or more, that would be good. And then, of course, Haaland. So Haaland's the big question. Arsenal at home. She's up against the Arsenal defence. It was one of the reasons that I took out Raya and Gabriel in my wild card. The question is now, I do think the Arsenal defence does look more vulnerable than it has last year, but they keep getting clean sheets. Somehow they scrape them. They defend with their lives. Haaland's in good form. He wasn't so fantastic, obviously, in his European match last night. Great game, by the way. I think he only had 1 shot on target, but Inter were excellent. It was a really good game for a 0-0. It was a really good game. But do I look back Haaland, the form, the captain's armband, or do we go Salah? Now, Haaland would be a differentiator this week. If he did come through, and it didn't happen for Salah, that would be a big differentiator. But do I go against? I think I've seen some polls. There's 100 FPL experts thing that I watch, and about 78% of them have the captain's armband on Salah. So it's the safe pick in some ways. But I might just go Haaland. We might find out next week. That probably is going to be one of my last minute decisions. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, big decision, that one. Big decision. Could be a bit of a week maker or breaker. Anyway, Haaland's still averaging a nice 12 points per week. Now, what that gives me is if that team does what it's averaging at the moment, an average of 58 points. And that, remember, that is without captaincy. I leave out captaincy. It gives us some sort of a margin for error. We're talking about averages here, and some players will underperform and some will overperform, etc., etc. And at the moment, there was a lot of them underperforming, and in that last game week in particular, it gives me a range because that team, as it stands right there, that I'll be fielding, only got 31 points, excluding captaincy last week. So for me, we've got a range now, so that the top points that team has achieved is 79, and its lowest 31. So it gives a range of 31 to 79 points, which means my prediction is actually 55. I actually think that's about right, and I always kind of felt that was going to be in that sort of area for this game week. But I thought I had a buffer. I thought because last week is when I was kind of expecting, if not a haul, certainly to hit the 70 or above, and keep my 25 points or so buffer in place to cover me for this week. And as you see, when I do next week's game next week, when I review and do game week 6, you see I've got a really nice strong line going out between the bench that's coming in, the players that I've got, as well as sorry, my screen just went off there, so just hopefully that hasn't caused a glitch. So as well as the subs that I'm going to bring in. So my two potential subs that I'm bringing in to bring in some Arsenal and possibly Mbeumo. We'll see. Some decisions to be made there. I'm so tempted to take a hit. But that goes against rules that I've set in concrete. Watkins, I'd like to have him in. I had a feeling it's because I knew as soon as he scored a goal or two, he's going to get on a run, is my prediction. Now, it's a bit of a worry. I'm sort of thinking, how the hell do I get Watkins in the next few game weeks? But it would mean taking a hit, and that would mean breaking my golden rule number 1. But rules are made to be broken, or at least bent a little. We'll see. I've got a lot to consider. I think I'm going to roll, though. I think that is the decision that I will roll. Just have to take my chances. There is haul potential there. There's no question about that. Trent could come in big time. Konza and Dunk, they've got reasonable fixtures at home. Rodgers might just kick off. He's been getting the chances. He's been averaging, possible 1 or 2 assists per game, and he's had a few decent strikes on goal. Salah. Who knows what could happen there? It's the question of whether I put the captain's armband on him. Currently, on my bus team, when I say bus team, that is if I got hit by a bus tonight, the team that will go out has Salah with the captain's armband on him, but I'm really tempted to put it on Haaland. United defence, we don't know what we're going to get. We're going to get the team that played Liverpool, or we're going to get the one that played Southampton. We're still conceded a few chances, to be fair. So could Eze bang in a couple. Jota, he's a risk. He's a rotation risk, but if he plays Bournemouth home, if Salah gets one, there's a decent chance that Jota's going to be assisting, and vice versa. Havertz against City, not so sure. We'll see. João Pedro against Nottingham Forest, good chance. Haaland against Arsenal, don't know. It doesn't feel like there is a hole there. But equally, I didn't think I was going to have such a disaster last week. It is football. Averages average out. So maybe this is the week where it sort of bounces back in my favour. Who knows? It's in the lap of the football gods. Let's see how we go. In the meantime, have fun, folks. Play your own game. And above all else, which I'm doing a little bit, don't panic.